In this hour, we want to talk about the attack on thinking. Not everybody thinks thinking is a good thing, as we'll see in a moment. We finished last hour by talking about the difference between Eastern meditation, which is now very much Western meditation, and biblical when the Bible uses the word meditate or the word meditation. It's not referring to the same thing by any means as what the world means by those terms. And Frank told me during the break that he does indeed play music to his plants. The plants don't think, he assures me, but they do grow better if you play music to them. Well, let's look a little bit at this attack on thinking, this what's called misology, M-I-S-O-L-O-G-Y. It's the hatred of logic, the hatred of thought. And there have been both religious and irreligious attacks on thinking. The first movement I will mention is Romanticism. Now, Romanticism isn't candlelight dinners and white nights or shiny nights on white horses, I guess. That's not what we mean by Romanticism. Romanticism was a movement, primarily in literature, but in some philosophy as well, at the beginning of the 19th century, end of the 18th century. And one of the major figures was the German poet Goethe. And his most famous work, I suppose, is Faust. And in that long epic poem, the character is struggling with the first verse of John's Gospel. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. And he dislikes intensely that translation. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. What he dislikes is the word. And he says what we have to do is we have to come up with a different translation. Now, Goethe knew Greek. He knew what the Greek says. And it's not a problem of translation. What he hates is the philosophy represented by the first verse of John's Gospel. In the beginning was the Word. And Goethe, after some struggle, translates it, in the beginning was the deed. In the beginning was the deed. It's action. In the beginning was the deed. Sometimes this romantic idea is expressed in the phrase, life is deeper than logic. Life is deeper than logic. Sometimes the romantics say things such as, life is green, but theory, that is thought, is gray. See, life is living. It's green. And aren't we all green these days? Life is green, but thought or theory is dead. There's a contrast here. Life is deeper than logic. That is, thought can't penetrate to the really important things. Life is deeper than logic. Sometimes the poet said things like, we murder to dissect. Biology classes in the afternoon took apart a grasshopper today. They dissected a grasshopper. They will dissect later in the week an earthworm and then later a starfish. But in order to do that, they have to kill those things first. We murder to dissect. And we're missing the life. We're missing the real thing. And our thought, our analysis, this is what it's aimed at. This whole kind of thought is aimed at destroying the idea of analysis. We really can't get to the important things through analysis, through logical thought, through understanding, through thinking. And this has been very influential, this stream of thought, not only outside the church, but within the churches as well. This has been a very influential stream of thought. I'll talk a little bit more about how we see that influence today Let me move on, though, to the second figure I want to mention. That's Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin, you all know him as the author of a couple books, Origin of Species and The Descent of Man, very influential books. He did not invent, as many people think, the theory of evolution. The theory of evolution had been around long before Darwin. What Darwin gave or appeared to give is a scientific basis for the theory of evolution. And many might say that Darwin demonstrated or gave a scientific foundation to what the poets, the Romantic poets who predated Darwin, long suspected, that life is deeper than logic. See, in Darwin's theory, logic is a fairly recent phenomenon. Thinking is a fairly recent phenomenon. It's something that has developed only in the last 100,000 years, when Homo sapiens appeared. That's when logic appears. And life, very literally, is, in Darwinian theory or evolutionary theory, deeper than logic. It predates logic by millions of years. And logic or thought or analysis or understanding is simply a tool of survival. It's something that certain animals evolved in order to enable them to survive. And that's the role of thought or logic. So Darwin appears to have given some sort of scientific basis for the romantic idea that life is deeper than logic. Well, the next major figure I'll mention here is Karl Marx, and I'm sure you're all familiar with that name again. He co-wrote with Friedrich Engels the Communist Manifesto in 1848, and then went on to write some much more boring books. But if you read the Communist Manifesto, it's actually quite well written. If you don't read anything else that Marx wrote, at least read the Manifesto. And you will understand, for instance, where the income tax came from. And it's helpful to know those things. I live in a state where there currently is no income tax, but the governor has been doing his best to impose one on the populace, and so far has not succeeded. And Marx, of course, was talking about a graduated income tax 150 years ago. But Marx realized what Darwin had done in The Origin of Species, and at one point he wanted to dedicate his major book, Das Kapital, Capital, to Darwin. Because he says Darwin has discovered the principles in nature that we have discovered operating in society. And our principles are simply an extrapolation of Darwin's. And he asked Darwin's permission, and Darwin refused permission for such a dedication, which was probably a wise move on Darwin's part. But there you see the same sort of theory developing. Marx came up with the idea, his contribution to the attack on logic, the attack on thought, was that there are many logics. There's not just one, there are many. And the theory is called polylogism, many logics. And each class within society has its own logic. And the reason the bourgeoisie cannot understand the proletariat is because they're bourgeoisie. They have a different logic, the proletariat has a different logic. And as the laws that control the development of history require, the proletariat will overthrow the bourgeoisie. The proletariat, being the fittest, will survive. The bourgeoisie will disappear. But this attack on logic took the form of denying that there is one logic, and said there are many logics, many different systems of thought.